Tesla is a pretty big company, a pretty exciting company, but they're not the only player in the world. I know, crazy, right? But because there's companies that do things that help Tesla suppliers and whatnot, and there are also companies that compete with Tesla. Some of them are quite good, some of them are absolutely terrible. And how on earth do you spot the difference? Well, sometimes I ask for advice from people who know more than me about spotting winners and losers, and that's why I'm talking to Gali, Galileo Russell from Hyperchange. Northwest resident like myself. We are so close, and I don't know if we've ever actually seen each other in the Northwest. Oh, Oregon, I guess counts, but
Oregon counts.
yeah, but just like all my Northwest peeps, I usually see at events. Guys, I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. So, Gali, I don't know if you've heard, but there are other companies out there. You know, because
Really?
yeah, because you've looked at them, you've worked with some of them, you've invested in some of them, and some of them are complementary to Tesla, even if they're mildly competitors. One I like to look at is the company JB Straubel created, Redwood Materials and Redwood Energy. When you look at them, what do you see? Because I look at them and I originally I thought, oh yeah, they're just making material. They're just grinding up metal, which is true at the time. And then they got into cathodes, and now they're getting into energy. They're moving up the value chain. Do you have thoughts on Redwood Materials slash energy?
Well, super cool company. I mean, JB is a Tesla legend who founded Redwood, so I feel like anything he is up to is worth a lot of scrutiny. And Redwood, I think, is focused on a little different piece of Tesla, but a similar trend of switching to electrification. And even more than that, like almost like thinking of cars as like electronic consumer devices, because Redwood doesn't just recycle car batteries, but also phone batteries and other electronics, I think. So I view them as like this really cool back end infrastructure company that is going to be, has a big role to play potentially in this whole transition because, Tesla's not going to own everything. And this is a huge, huge transition from fossil fuels to electric cars that's taking decades. And there's so much infrastructure when you think about how, normal cars work. And electric cars are a totally different supply chain and value chain. And so I feel like Redwood is building an important part of like the new kind of more sustainable circular economy, like recycling batteries. I think is just a huge, huge thing. The more these electric cars, like we have our Teslas, they're 10 to 15 years old. Eventually, then they're going to need to be recycled. So as this tidal wave of EVs ages, I think there's a huge opportunity for Redwood. Like they're just sitting on the tsunami.
They are absolutely out ahead of the big wave that's coming. And they even have a processing facility on the Giga Nevada campus or just outside the back gate. So they are in tight with this group. And if you've seen how Redwood Energy works, you'll understand that that's not quite a direct competitor for Megapacks. It does hold and then put back out juice, but it's a little bit different. What I look for is execution. I appreciate that you have a great idea. I appreciate you have a great prototype or even limited production. But if you don't have the execution, you're dead in the water. How do you look for that? How do you spot that?
Well, it's definitely tricky when they're not a public company because you can't read their filings or see what's happening. So I guess we're just kind of going off what Redwood tells us or shows us in videos at this point.
Well, I don't mean Redwood, but I mean any company at all. Redwood has JB right there. I'm going to give them an extra couple points. But I've been out there. I've seen it. They are getting everything stood up. I wouldn't be capable of saying if they're on Tesla scale for execution, but I mean all the other guys. You look at EOS, for example. Are they executing? I'm not sure.
So the way I would do it is thinking about if the product is good and customers are happy and want to buy a lot more products from that company. So whether that's like Tesla, where I'm a customer and I like the product, I think that gives me a huge insight into, you know, like the company. And so I try and really stay in my lane. With other companies, if it's hard to know if you're executing. Like I went through a whole phase of like, oh, big data is going to be big, like 10 years ago, and investing in all these software companies, like reading all their reports and stuff. And it's just like, I just had to come to the conclusion that like I just don't know anything about this. And like I don't know why a CTO would pay millions of dollars for their software. I've never been a CTO who's had to pay millions of dollars for software. Like I'm just kidding myself if I think I have an edge in this industry. So I think that's a super interesting and like important part of investing is like, do you understand are you just reading everything that everyone else reads on the internet, or like do you actually understand that their product is good? You know, and even in the case of Redwood, like I don't know, I've never talked to one of their customers who's like used their battery pack that's been recycled or anything. So it that's a very difficult part about investing, I think.
Especially the products that we're talking about. Software is infinitely complicated. It's not like we're talking about, uh, a bicycle. There's a limit to what you can do with a bicycle. I think we know what all the limits are. I did want to take a pause there to tell you that you were very instrumental in the early days of Tesla, of the Tesla verse. You were one of the few big channels out there. And of course, I followed you feverishly. And what you just said is exactly that. It is that if you don't follow something closely enough, it's hard to know what you're looking at. You and I were following Tesla closely, and we could see things that the analysts could not. So when the dip came in 2019, I took 75% of my meager IRA, Roth IRA, and I put it in this little company called Tesla. And my friend said, "Oh, Tesla, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole." My friend, you can no longer afford a 10-foot pole. I've got quite a bit of shares now because of the support and guidance of people like you. So I thank you for that.
Awesome.
That's,
Good to hear.
yeah, it's how could I have known? How could I have gotten the insight? So if you're looking for investment advice, we are not giving you investment advice. We are showing you, I can't tell you which way the stock is going, but I can tell you which way the company is going. And we have seen other companies where they had a great product but terrible execution. I know it might be painful to bring it up. Arcimoto, I love the product, I love Mark, but
Totally.
but Eugene is not known for the fire in the belly in the manufacturing space, I suppose, and it showed. It was unfortunate.
Yeah. And it's such a hard business as well. But they did sell 1,000 of them. So in some ways, that's so much more than a lot of other vehicles companies get to. But I think that's a perfect example of like, if you're investing in companies before they're profitable, it's very risky and a lot of companies won't make it. And that's, what the game is as an investor. Like, how do you manage your portfolio? How do you focus on the winners? How do you not get burned? Especially if you're doing early stage technology companies that, aren't profitable yet.
What would you consider a good hit to miss ratio on a company that early on? 1 in 20?
I mean, 1 in 10 is the rule they say for startups, so I think that's a fair rule. Um, but something like that.
And in that case, you just have to 10x your money to break even.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
invest in 10 of them, 1 has
Yeah.
to 10x to make your money back, which is kind of the startup investing game. So,
Hmm.
I think about, and honestly, I mean, I've only pretty much owned Tesla stock. Like, I had a little Arcimoto at one point. I've dabbled. I have, like, a little bit of Lemonade right now, but, they've never been more than, like, a couple percent of my portfolio. Like, 95% of it's always in Tesla.
Mine
So,
is currently at about 95%.
yeah, and my biggest mistake in my career has probably been not just buying Tesla and Bitcoin, my favorite investments, like, trying to dabble, and I think it's fun to dabble, and I do a lot of startup investing and stuff, but I don't know. It's hard to be. I even bought my first piece of property, and then it's just everything I've done. I've just been like, you know what? Probably just buying and holding Tesla would have been the move. So, but Tesla's also like the world's greatest asset in a lot of ways. So, or one of the world's greatest companies. So, it takes learning to reinforce that. Like watching Arcimoto, being at the factory floor, walking the Tesla floor, comparing it, listening to the management teams, watching both those case studies unfold. Like I think I learned a ton from both, and that's super valuable in continuing to refine the investment process.
Well, by looking at Tesla's method of operation and their style of management, you have learned more about manufacturing than anyone at GM.
I don't know about
Because well,
that.
they
But
don't they don't they don't know much, is what I'm saying,
yeah.
and what they know is wrong. Uh, Looking at other complementary companies. There's battery companies. Tesla has partnerships with Panasonic, with LG, with Samsung, with CATL, and BYD. That's all of the big players except for SK Innovations. What have you looked into any of those and considered investing in those?
I haven't. And the reason is I'll tell you a little story about a company called GTAT, which was one of this like sapphire glass supplier for the iPhone. This is in like 10 or 15 years ago. My buddies and I were basically trying to get, pull a fast one on Apple. It's like, oh, well, Apple's going to do big. What if we get this person that makes their screen and that stock's going to go up 100x instead of the stock going up 5x or whatever? And it just, it was the same thing of like, are we really experts in what glass screen is the best for consumer device? No. And I don't know, maybe we made a little money on it, but I just remember learning the lesson of like the brand has the power. Like Apple they try and charge too much money, Apple will switch to something else. Like they are the one you want to invest in, they're the vision. So I've kind of learned my lesson to like stop playing derivative plays personally, and I just buy Tesla. I don't want to dabble with battery companies or suppliers to Tesla that could change, or they could just disrupt it and bring it in house. And you want to invest in a company with a vision that's building something you believe in. That's my take, not kind of one of like a back end supplier. Just because I've gotten burned. So that's my philosophy there.
So I've got a friend who decided to buy into three or four different lithium companies, and only one of them is up since he bought it, and the rest are all down. It was not a good play for him. When I look at the battery companies, there was a time I did consider investing in CATL or BYD, but they're not really traded on US markets. It's kind of a tracker trade. And I have skeptical thoughts about that. I do not have full confidence in the ability to get the cash back out. And then when it comes to the others, you're right. Well, yeah, but Panasonic is their big partner. Well, they were, and now they're not. I mean, I guess in Nevada they still are, but Panasonic batteries do not go into the cars in Shanghai or Berlin. And BYD, that's great, but they only use them coming out of one factory, and they will drop them if they need to. And then where are you? So
Yeah,
that's a very good point. And we have already seen some part suppliers going bankrupt uh, under the difficulties that we're seeing in the economy right now,
hmm
making their job very difficult. Uh, so, to sum up, what I think I hear you saying is, if you have conviction, follow it, but keep your eyes wide open and be open to new information as it emerges.
totally. And I think it's hard to get to know more than a couple companies deeply. So I think it's important to like focus on ones that are really, you think are the most high quality. That's what I try and find, like founders who are like, they have a vision in the world they want to achieve, and they're working on it, and they have a game plan, and they're building it brick by brick. Those are like the companies that I've noticed that really go all the way. It's like those owner operator founders. I mean, Elon, Tesla, great example of that. And it's definitely a bummer because like Redwood's not public. So a lot
Mhm.
of these cool companies where it would make sense to throw a little money at them early, even if you don't know them, you don't get that chance. And so I think that's a little bit of like a bummer, but that is kind of just the way it goes.
I was at the Redwood Energy event. There weren't many of us there. Rob Maurer was there. I don't remember who. Not very many people,
So
but
what was the event? I'm kind of curious.
oh, it was beautiful. They stationary storage. That's it. Just stationary storage. You think, oh, so you take car batteries and you break them apart and test it. No, we don't do nothing. We bring it in and test it. If it's got over 60% health, we deploy it. Not in racks, not with fire suppression, not with cooling. We just put cinder blocks on gravel, slap the battery on that, and plug it into our proprietary voltage regulator, and you're done. Now we've got
Wow.
so they had 20 acres of solar, 2 acres of batteries spaced 10 feet, about 3 meters between them in any direction. So if it burns, let it burn. But they don't burn because we don't do 4 hour cycle. We do 10, 12 hour cycle. We do overnight charge. So all day the solar's fire is juicing it up. All night it's draining down nice and slow. So there's no fire mitigation, no cabinets, no construction, no mounting hardware. You're just done. And the solar panels they put flush to the ground with a little Roomba that cleans them all day. So there's no mounting hardware there either. They're just held down by steel cables with a little berm at the side to keep the wind from getting under it. It's the cheapest, easiest solution ever. They don't
Wow.
even have to pay tariffs because they probably didn't even pay for the batteries in the first place, and they're all inside the country already. And in the case of a lot of
Cool.
these batteries, they got paid to take them. So it was
Wow.
a it's a brilliant solution, but you don't want it looks like a garbage pile is what it looks like. It literally looks like trash out in the yard. We thought it was
Mhm.
storage until they told us it's powering the event. So what they're doing is very clever. They've got a lot of fire in them. They've got a lot of executive skill. And I asked them at the event, why aren't you going public? And they said, oh, because the value today is nowhere close to what we think the value is. The value to
Mm.
us, it would be such a huge discount on what we know the value to be that we won't sell it. It makes more sense to just take on debt than to go public. And I
Mm.
thought, yeah, yeah, but that's why we want it, is because we see the 10x. He's like, yeah, we're not doing that.
Hmm.
So yeah, clever stuff all around. Guys,
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, head over to Galley's channel. Is there anything else I forgot to mention that we should consider when telling people what is not our financial advice? Because I don't give financial advice, because my financial advice is always pick something you like and hold it until it no longer makes sense and have an exit strategy.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. I'm buying I mean, Tesla and Bitcoin have been my biggest investments for like 14 years. So
Oh, has
13
Bitcoin
years.
done okay over the last 14 years?
Yeah. I sold it at one point though to start Hyperchange. So I've since
Oh,
bought it back, but I'm yeah, and I think it's funny how that the OG things do so well. You know, these big ideas take a long time to play out and there's a lot of way to go. You know, you're not late. I don't feel like that's a big concept people have. It's like they think they're late or they don't understand, you know, and they're always trying to pull a fast one versus just kind of like appreciating who really is the leader.
and if you're trying to time it, you can't buy it when it's up because you missed it. And when it goes back down, you're glad you didn't buy it. I'm not going to buy it now. It's gone down. Guys, you just at some point you have to just buy it. And my thought on crypto, I'll just share this real quick, is that there's, everything other than Bitcoin sure feels like snake oil, except for NFTs, which, as far as I can tell, is a picture of snake oil. So guys, in the comments, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Leave it. I beg of you, everybody else, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you, clever robots. Next time, I trick Gali into coming back on the show.
Thanks for having me, Brian.